tracked, and both the sides were aware, because even
Ladies and gentlemen, going straight to the breaking news update now coming in the Supreme Court as we speak. There is a hearing underway between the Enforcement Directorate and the Mamata Banerjee government. And in the hearing right now, as we speak, some very strong arguments being made. The Solicitor General arguing for the Enforcement Directorate has referred to the state of law and order, saying that in the state of West Bengal, the police comes with the Chief Minister to ensure that evidence is taken away and removed. This is pure theft, asking to implead the Chief Secretary and the departmental officers as well in this case. So the ED wants officers to also be made party to the case, something that they've been asking for since yesterday. In fact, when the court case came up in the court, the Solicitor General asked for officers to be made party to the case, given how files were stolen with the help of officers, sitting officers, both police officers and officers in the government of West Bengal, bureaucratic officers. Now, this hearing is currently underway. I want to go across to my colleague Rhythm, who will also be joining us. But the Solicitor General, and these are the key words, in fact, of the court. Solicitor General Tushar Mehta saying the police here comes with the Chief Minister to ensure that evidence is taken away and removed. This is pure theft. Solicitor General Tushar Mehta saying that he's asking for the court to implead the Chief Secretary and the departmental officers. Earlier, CBI officers also went there, and there was a judicial investigation by this court to work on the chit fund scam. CBI officers are arrested and taken to police station. The Chief Minister stages a dharna, and as we speak, the bench is discussing. Solicitor General also then says that they approached the High Court in Calcutta, in Kolkata, the Calcutta High Court, saying this is what happens when mobocracy overtakes democracy. See what the High Court judge observes in the order. It notes huge number of lawyers gathered, creating commotion, and that the environment in court was not conducive for a hearing. The ASG then steps in, saying that he was there. Advocate Kapil Sibal for the opposite side says he was also there. Justice Mishra then asks everybody to ensure that there is order in the Supreme Court. Solicitor General then says he's placed on record the WhatsApp chats of the law wing. They were all instructed by the legal cell of the party. So this is a big declaration being made, a revelation rather, in the court by the ED once again, saying that WhatsApp chats show lawyers were mobilized in the court. And this is a big mention that has been made as we speak. Solicitor General also saying that it was intentional. Message says gathering today at gate number. And Justice Mishra then asks, was it Jantar Mantar? Solicitor General says yes, court was converted into Jantar Mantar. They had arranged buses and transport also for members. SG on behalf of the ED says the plan was to convert the court into Jantar Mantar, talking about the manner in which mobilization happened in the court, adding that the High Court passed an order saying only lawyers will enter the court and the hearing will be live streamed. And the Solicitor General also says that his mic, that is ASG Raju, Additional Solicitor General SP Raju's mic was continuously muted. Supreme Court saying, but that was in control of the court. Solicitor General says, I don't wish to say anything, but we are here to protect fundamental right of our officers. We are acting under the Act, and we do not seize for personal gains. Solicitor General saying that ED is not a mere organ of the union. They exist for the very purpose. They attach property. They take property in possession. So very, 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 very critical arguments being made in the court. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a very significant hearing because the Enforcement Directorate is putting on record the facts of what went wrong and how even courts were intimidated. This is extremely significant. This is a political party not just fighting an agency fighting for its right, fighting for fundamental rights, fighting the government of Bengal, and how Bengal government misused its state machinery to block an investigating agency. And critical arguments are now being made in the court. The Solicitor General also says that it was theft. Whatever happened in Bengal was theft. The fact that the files were stolen amounts to theft, and that they are seeking to implead the chief secretary and also departmental officers. And they also want the acting DGP to be removed. So this is a battle between the state of West Bengal and the union. For all practical purposes, we'll go across and get some voices on the story. The hearing is underway as we speak. This could have an implication on all future investigations. I'm going across to Shravan Sen, my colleague joining us on the phone line. Shravan is tracking the developments. Shravan, these are very strong arguments being made, strong observations, because the court says that they turned it, the ED says that some lawyers turned it into jantar mantar. They mobilized people to come to the court, High Court, and try and ensure the hearing does not happen. This is unprecedented, the kind of charges that are being leveled here.
This is on the basis of what really happened when the enforcement director had moved the Calcutta High Court, and they wanted an urgent hearing to take place. Unfortunately, the hearing did not take place only because there was overcrowding in the court, leading to the enforcement directorate in the national capital immediately calling for an emergency meeting, and thereafter an email, in fact, was sent to the Chief Justice in Calcutta, hoping that there would be some sort of an intervention. Rather than an intervention, the matter was thereafter kept on the 14th. That is the reason why the enforcement directorate was basically left with no other option but perhaps knock at the doors of the Supreme Court. Now, let me tell you why exactly they had to do this. That was only because time is of the essence as far as this investigation goes. And let's not forget, the evidence that was basically collected by the enforcement directorate was actually taken over by the Chief Minister of West Bengal. And they have enough reasons to believe that perhaps the evidence was actually destroyed. In fact, this morning, Niranjan, when I spoke to one of my sources to get a sense of what's happening with the investigation, there is enough reason to believe that as far as the Hawala transactions that have actually taken place, the alleged Hawala transaction, they suspected that there was evidence of it at the I-PAC office. And that is the reason why the searches were being carried out. The fact of the matter is this, that this is not about political data that the enforcement directorate is talking about. The enforcement directorate is talking about a case that has been registered back in the year 2017. And to answer the question of those who are saying why ahead of the elections, remember there is no timing when it comes to the investigation. As far as this whole scam is concerned, almost every month, some things that have not been highlighted by the media, every month there have been searches that have been carried out, and in fact, summons have been issued. So to say that this is basically timed to the election perhaps would be factually incorrect, given the fact that this is an ongoing case. And as I've been able to map this entire investigation, the sense that I get is that almost, barring perhaps a few months here and there, almost every month there have been searches that have been carried out, summons that have been issued, and it is an ongoing case. That is exactly what the enforcement directorate is also perhaps stressing upon in the court today, that this has got nothing to do with the elections. And in fact, no party office was actually searched by the enforcement directorate. It was a political consultancy firm that is under the scanner as far as the alleged Hawala transaction is concerned.
Shravan, here, one aspect that has been mentioned by the court is how they did not seize anything at all. The ED says they seized nothing. How is it possible that the ED seized nothing? Is the ED saying that the Chief Minister, her police bureaucrats took every single file away from the raid site?
Well, in fact, that is exactly the case. Because if you look at the timings of the searches that were carried out, this was little after 6 o'clock in the morning that the searches actually began. Till about 11 o'clock, everything was actually going fine till the time an officer actually entered and asked the enforcement director to basically furnish proof, asking who are they and what were they essentially doing, because there was a complaint that the local police had received saying that that this was a case of trespassing. After the assistant director actually perhaps explained it to the local officer that there is a search warrant and the searches are being carried out under Section 17 of the PMLA Act. So everything is basically legal here. There was nothing illegal about the searches that were basically being carried out. Little after that, immediately after the assistant director actually explained this to the local officer, we are given to understand that a senior police officer actually came in. And that time, the senior police officer actually told the enforcement director not to carry forward with the investigation and to end the matter here. That was what was told. But it seems that the enforcement director continued with the investigation. And roughly around noon is when the chief minister actually landed at the residence of Pratik Sinha. Important to highlight here is that the moment she entered, she wasn't certainly alone. There were aides of the chief minister and the state machinery. In fact, the state machinery went along with the chief minister, and thereafter, immediately, the enforcement directorate, who was basically indexing all the evidence that was gathered since morning, they were essentially told to hand over. In fact, the assistant director was holding a mobile phone of a suspect in this particular case, and that mobile phone was taken away by the chief minister. Thereafter, the chief secretary was activated. We are given to understand the DGP was activated. All of them ended up in chorus asking the enforcement director to stop the investigation and leave. In fact, they went a step ahead, threatening that an FIR would be registered against the enforcement director officers. It's also important to perhaps emphasize here that we're talking about an assistant director level officer, not a senior officer here, an assistant director in the enforcement directorate, perhaps being pitted against the chief minister of a state. And not just that, his seniors, as far as within the bureaucratic circle is concerned, that is the chief secretary. Certainly one cannot expect an assistant director to perhaps take on an entire state machinery here. And thereafter, it turns out that the assistant director still carried out the investigation, which basically irked the state machinery there. And they were essentially told that if they could continue further, an FIR would be registered. And that's exactly what happened later in the day when 3 FIRs were registered. In the past, too, Niranjan, what has happened is that the enforcement directorate time and again has been stopped from carrying out their duties. And that is the reason why, to essentially say that the administration perhaps did not allow them to carry out the investigation, it wouldn't be appropriate.
Yeah. In fact, the Solicitor General arguing for the Enforcement Directorate has also said officers of the Enforcement Directorate intimated the local police acting under Section 17 of the PMLA was to probe I-PAC. All police officers, Chief Minister took away all the files. It is clear theft. She took an ED officer phone as well. This will only encourage such acts and the central forces will be demoralized. State will feel they can barge in, commit theft and then sit on dharna. Let an example be set where officers who are explicitly present there should be suspended. The ED asks for, big breaking news update, ED asks for officers and bureaucrats present to be suspended. I want to have Kapil Sankla, advocate, joining us live on the broadcast as well. Kapil, hearing this is theft. It is nothing but theft. We've been live since the raid happened. She took the files away. ED says they have nothing. All the files have been taken away. So she came there with an army of police officers, army of bureaucrats. They cleaned the site. ED is asking for these officers to be suspended.
Let's not call them officers. Let's call them gundas, because that is what they were. At the end of the day, let me understand this. Essentially, a private party is involved where raid occurs for certain acts or inacts done by them, where the state machinery is activated. The chief minister comes with certain people who say that we are officers, bureaucrats, police officers, and stop a lawful act being done. And thereafter, forcibly, with criminal intent, take away material evidence, which amounts to theft. All right. So at the end of the day, let us not call them bureaucrats. Let us not call them IS officers or IPS officers or whatever they are. Let us call them who they were. They were gundas of a political party who entered and stopped a raid from being committed and a lawful act being committed. And thereafter, the state machinery was misused and an FIR was registered against the central agency. So let us call a spade a spade. The second important factor. Now, if these people were misusing their position, power, then they should be punished. And this is writ at large in this particular case where they had no business, they had no authority, they had no right to stop a raid from being conducted. They had absolutely nothing as far as the law is concerned. Here is a case where the ED is working under its lawful authority and the state machinery is misusing certain people for their own personal interest and stopping an organization or an investigating agency to do what is lawfully correct. So therefore, these are not officers. These are only gundas, and gundas working for a political party, for their political masters, for a political reason. And now they're trying to politicize the reason by saying that, oh, this was an illegal raid, this could not have happened, and this is a politically motivated stuff. If we allow this to happen, then tomorrow every organization would be under some kind of limitation, some kind of liability against every politician who's going to use the same narrative and stop any government organization to do what is right, what is correct, what is proper, and what is just.
Yeah, in fact, as we speak, the ED, the Solicitor General arguing for the Enforcement Directorate, has just said that a message needs to go out once and for all, and the bench is discussing. So we are expecting something big. The Supreme Court also asking some questions about the nature of the investigation, what was at stake. This is going to be a very significant hearing. That's the sense we're getting. Kapil, the ED is in no mood to relent, given whatever has happened over the weekend.
That is absolutely right, and they shouldn't. Because as we say, what is the narrative that is now created? That any political person or any gunda who has enough manpower can stop ED from doing what is right, what is just, and what is legal. And they don't have to show the law. They don't have to show the precedent. They don't have to go to the court. All they need to do is get enough manpower. Perhaps, rightly or wrongly, police officers, non-police officers, to stop ED from doing what is proper. And if this is permitted today, think of the large-scale ramifications where there would be industrialists with political patronage, politicians. And in this case, it wasn't as if a politician or a political party was being raided. It was a private party, and the state machinery came in their defense. In their offense by actively stopping the organization from the investigating organization to do what is correct. So therefore, it is absolutely imperative today that the Honorable Supreme Court steps in and protects the ED from doing what is right. Otherwise, tomorrow, there would be no use of the statute that actually gives benefit, advantage, and the protection to ED officers from doing their duty.
Yeah. Do we have any precedents in this particular case? Kapil, I mean, you're an advocate in the Supreme Court. Any precedents that are there that the court could look at while looking at this particular case? Because it's a curious case where ED, CBI have gone to Bengal, investigated, faced political attacks. CBI officers have been arrested. There is a precedence to what is happening in Bengal. It's not the first, it's not the second, and it's not the last.
So in previous avatar, as we say, one of the premier investigating agencies, as we know, is CBI. You rightly pointed out CBI. In CBI cases, what happens is that certain officers had faced false FIRs and protection of the political patronage of the accused. And in the light of the same, the PMLA Act itself gives certain benefits to the Enforcement Directorate officers, saying that one, which is a general protection, that no FIR or criminal case or a case will be filed against officers for doing what is supposed to be their lawful duty. But secondly, very importantly, another protection is given that protects only ED officers, which is that no FIR, no state FIR will be filed or an FIR filed in state against an ED officer for doing something in his lawful duty. So as far as precedents are concerned, more importantly, in the previous cases against CBI, where CBI did face a lot of harassment and problems, that protection has been given specifically to the officers of the ED in terms of the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. And that protection is sacrosanct, it is statutory, it has never been challenged. So therefore, the FIR is in the teeth of the statutory protection granted by the legislature to the ED officers. And that itself would be something that the Honorable Supreme Court will be taking cognizance of, because that has never been challenged, that has never been questioned, and that is good law as it stands today.
Okay, we have a breaking news update coming in. Supreme Court says it's a very serious matter and that they're going to issue notices. Notices will be issued. In fact, I'm getting in more breaking news updates right now. Just picking up these updates from the courtroom right now. Supreme Court saying that they're going to issue some notices. Justice Mishra asking whether the photos have been filed. And there are some more updates that I'm just getting in from the newsroom right now. Justice Mishra says, what are these photos you have filed? Solicitor General for the Enforcement Directorate says, of Dharna, surrounded by police officers. So big development. ED shows proof of being surrounded by the police. ED shows proof of their officers surrounded by the police. And this is a big development. In fact, getting in more details of what the Supreme Court is saying. Justice Mishra tries to tell Sibal. In fact, Sibal intervenes, says, let me first clear the air. Everyone knows I-PAC. If High Court can hear, why should your lordships? And Justice Mishra says, we are disturbed by the way High Court has been, and then Sibal interrupts and says, that will not be repeated. Yesterday hearing took place. If this court hears this, you will have to assume High Court cannot. Justice Mishra says, don't put words in our mouth, don't assume. Sibal says this should be heard by High Court. It has Article 226 jurisdiction, that's the hierarchy. They are filing parallel proceedings. Dr. Abhishek Manu Singhvi then appears and says, without any ruckus, ED sought adjournment yesterday. They're now trying to admit. Kapil, they're admitting. In fact, Sibal says it will not be repeated. He says it will not be repeated. Okay. We'll try and get some more lawyers also live with us. The hearing is underway right now, and as we speak, the court is issuing notice. The court says it is a very serious matter, and that they want to issue notices. And they're very disturbed by what is happening in the High Court. This is a breaking news update, ladies and gentlemen. Trying to get you the latest updates right now. The court is hearing the case, and we are getting you the minute-by-minute updates. Justice Mishra in the Supreme Court saying that this is a very serious matter and that they will have to examine it. Abhishek Manu Singhvi has just intervened, saying that the court says we are adjourning it. Cyanide since case was pending here. And then Sibal says, I-PAC, we all know that it takes care of elections in West Bengal. Formal contract between TMC and I-PAC in 2021. Justice Mishra says elections in West Bengal is conducted by ECI or I-PAC. And Sibal says all election data is confidential and it is all kept there. There will be a lot of information on candidates. Why was the news to go there in the midst of an election? Last statement in the coal scam was recorded on February 24th, 2024. What were they doing there since then? Why so keen in the middle of an election? It is all the info that is in the computers, and once you have that info, how do we fight the election? Chairman has the right to protect it, and thus we went there. So Kapil Sibal arguing for the Bengal government and the Trinamool Congress and I-PAC here, saying that all the election data, confidential data, was kept in the I-PAC office, asking why ED had to go there. Why so keen in the middle of an election? And the Supreme Court has also said that they will be issuing notices, adding that this is a very, very serious matter, adding that what is ED in fact has said this is theft, this is nothing but theft. And Justice Mishra has said that that is the Supreme Court has observed that they're extremely disturbed by the way the High Court has been. And then Sibal interjects, says, hearing happened yesterday just before the Supreme Court could talk about how disturbed they were by the manner in which the High Court was interrupted. And Supreme Court says that Sibal should not try and put words in their mouth and that they will decide what to assume and what not to. We'll try and go across to Ridhamanand Bardwaj, also joining us live on the broadcast. She will be joining us any minute now. And the hearing is still underway, but the Supreme Court bench is discussing as we speak, and we should be able to get the breaking news update on what next in this particular case. Sibal also says that ED reached at 6:20 a.m. Chief Minister came at 12 p.m. and left at 12:15 p.m. and that they're also very disturbed as to why ED shall wait for 2 hours and then go to a place which is a part of the party office. And then he tries to draw the attention of the court to section 105 of the BNSS. Sibal says, please see the video recording. It is a blatant lie that all digital devices were taken. See that Panchnama also, this is just to create prejudice. He tries to claim that digital devices were not taken. Sibal argues, saying that digital devices were not taken by the Chief Minister, but there are visuals that show that digital devices were taken. Files were taken. So the arguments still continue in the Supreme Court. As we speak, Sibal is arguing, saying, please see the video recording. It's a blatant lie that all digital devices were taken. See that Panchnama also. This is just to create prejudice. And the Solicitor General, a few minutes back, also said that a message has to go out once and for all. Kapil Sibal talking about what I-PAC does, saying that he wants to make submissions and that he is appearing for the chairman of the Trinamool Congress, which is Mamata Banerjee. Kapil Sibal is appearing for Mamata Banerjee. But the Supreme Court making it clear that they are very disturbed by the manner in which the court was functioning, or rather how the court was disturbed. In fact, on the day of the raids, when they went to the court, there was no hearing in the court. I have my colleague Shivam also joining us with the latest updates from the courtroom. Shivam, any other updates that we have from inside the courtroom? If you can take us through what we have, the observations that are being made, the arguments being made.
I'll share you the latest updates that we are fetching right now at this moment, and whatever is being said in the courtroom now. Kapil Sibal, the latest updates, let me share it with you. Kapil Sibal is saying, please see the video recording, and he's arguing, he's saying that it is a blatant lie that all digital devices were taken, and he is also trying to mention the Panchnama also, and he mentions that this is just to create a prejudice. Now, the other points which are mentioned by Kapil Sibal during the courtroom hearing, he said that ED reached around 6:20 a.m. and CM came at around 12 p.m. So he's trying to make an argument that the CM came a bit late, and he also mentioned that the CM left at around 12:15 p.m. But we were very much live during that time, and we saw she was there for a very long time. And Kapil Sibal also mentioned this in his arguments, that he said we are also very disturbed as to why ED shall wait for 2 years and then go to a place which is a part of the party office. While he was also mentioning to the section 105 of BNSS. Now, Justice Mishra has made a strong argument, strong point, where he asks, elections in West Bengal, is it